I think that most of the discord and friction comes from when we're being creative.
But it was an important step for you maybe to take maybe as a group of young guys taking it to a higher level.
Right, okay, I understand your question. There was a tour in the US in 2004, it's the Ozzfest tour. At the time it was the biggest touring hard rock and heavy metal festival in the States. And that was a big break for us. That put us in front of a lot of people who had kind of heard of us, wondering about us, and we went out and did those shows, and it was a noticeable difference. We followed that up with an arena tour with Slipknot. So I think that era was big for us in terms of getting us in front of a lot of people for the first time and really learning the ropes on how to play an arena and how to play a festival stage. The tour with Metallica comes to mind. You know, we've spent over a year with Metallica on the last record, and obviously that's a milestone for us as fans, as musicians, and as a metal band. You know, it gets no bigger. So I mean that's a standout point as well.
When you achieve that it in that sense can get no bigger, do you then?
Well, we can get bigger, but I mean in terms of being a part of a tour like that.
You can be the Metallica and switch.
In terms of being a part of a tour like that. You know.
Being main support Metallica.
That's a dream tour for any metal band.
It doesn't get any bigger.
Do you set sometimes when such a thing happens and you finish maybe such a tour, do you set maybe step back a little bit and think, well, what should we do now? In a sense that set a new goal for yourselves?
I wonder about, you know, after having spent a year on the road with those guys, I'm like, well, you know, it's not a panicky feeling or a bad feeling. It's just kind of like, well, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. You know, what are we going to do now?
Yeah. I think it's more from a perspective of what's the next best decision to make for the band to keep us moving forward and to keep hopefully strengthening and broadening the fan base. We think about our decisions and the moves we make pretty intently, and we all participate in decision making. So I think it's from that sense, not in a sense like, well, what's next? What can I do next to entertain myself? It's more like how to keep the band growing.
At what point do you have these decision meetings, or if there are meetings? Or
sometimes we have meetings, but we don't need to really have meetings because we tour so much. We're always on top of each other anyway.
But are you always on the same page when it comes to making this decision, or are these intense discussions maybe you have to?
I think the terms of like the planning and the business discussions tend to go more smoothly than the creative discussions. I think that most of the discord and friction comes from when we're being creative, because everyone has a really different vision. The business stuff, it's usually pretty clear. I mean, we're all pretty relatively intelligent people, I hope. And
fairly astute young men.
You know, we evaluate the decisions and they make themselves clear. You know?
Yeah, you mentioned now the creative maybe frictions you have sometimes.
Yeah.
This was a reason I think that you brought in Josh Wilbur early in the creative stage.
Certainly didn't hurt.
It didn't hurt. Yeah, it keeps us focused.
To save yourself from a trap, or were you afraid maybe that things would get so tense maybe at some point that it could not benefit the
I think we just know Josh and how he works, and conversely, he knows us as people and as players and as musicians and as a band. And so having Josh there helps keep us focused and moving forward. Sometimes if there's a conflict or a struggle within the band, it can slow us down. Josh is really good at getting to the root of the question, helping us decide what the best answer is and move forward. You know.
Is there a moment where you maybe, when he wouldn't be there, that there is always a certain point that you may get stuck on a discussion? Is that always a sort of similar thing?
For Josh?
Now, for you as a band, is there always a similar thing that at some point you get stuck on?
I mean, there have certainly been times in the past where a song has been taken and worked and reworked to death when it should have just been let go, you know? And, you know, having an outside objective person whose opinion we all respect made that a lot easier to let some things go. You know, classical comes to mind.
What song did that become though? Didn't it become, or did that get dropped?
I think it finally got dropped.
I think you're right.
At this song,
we don't need to.
It went on forever and ever.
Sometimes people cling to something too much.
Yeah.
And Josh is really good at keeping things realistic.
Yeah.
But is everybody always happy then with the decision maybe he makes in the end? Or is it sometimes?
Well,
still-
we work together. It's not like Josh. If we're not happy with it, then that's not the decision.
Yeah.
We have to find a compromise.
We don't, you know, if someone absolutely just freaked out and said, I cannot live with this, then, you know, we're going
It's not gonna happen.
We're going to respect that person's opinion. We aren't going to say, this producer has says this and you have to do this. I mean, it's our band. There's 5 dudes in the band that ultimately make the decision.
He's just a good tiebreaker and a good voice of reason.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated.
I think it would be harder with a stranger. You know, we know him and we trust him.